Imagine waking up to an email every day that summarizes what the internet is saying about your service or business, or even about your competitors. Well, in this video, we're going to turn that imagination into reality by using BuildShip. We'll be building a brand mention tracker workflow that will allow you to receive an email just like this, summarizing what people are saying about any brand of your choice. Let's get started. We already have a template prepared to help us quickly get started. In the search bar, we'll search for brand, and then we'll select the brand mention tracker template. This will spin up a folder template in your project. And you'll notice that this template has two workflows. That's because in this video, we're going to show you how you can build a brand mention tracker across two platforms, YouTube and Hacker News. We'll start with the YouTube workflow. We can use this workflow to keep up to date with what people are saying on YouTube about a particular brand. Now we need to set up our workflow. The first thing you'll notice here is that we're using a custom schedule cron trigger. This is because we want to trigger our workflow on a daily basis. And specifically, we want it to run every morning at 8 a.m. UTC time. From here, we'll just click connect. Perfect, our trigger is now connected. And now back in our workflow, we can start talking about the other nodes. The workflow takes in a single brand input. This is the brand that we want to scan for on YouTube for any mentions. But before that, we want to get the previous date. This is important because when we scan YouTube for mentions of the given brand, we don't want to return any old mentions. We only care about mentions from the previous date. And we'll be passing this date as a filter to our YouTube node. To make it more clear, we can test the node. And we get back the previous date in UTC time zone. Next, we have our YouTube node. This node is responsible for scanning YouTube for any mentions of the brand we give it. For the search query, we're using the brand input. And as we've previously just explained, we want to specify a publish after date. The node will only return mentions that are published after the date we specify here. As you can see, we're using the output of the get previous date node. Lastly, we're limiting the total number of mentions to return to just 5. And that's a quick explanation of the YouTube mentions node. But there's one important step that you can't skip over. To be able to use this node, you need to have a YouTube data API key. Getting one is free. To begin, head over to console.cloud.google.com. And if you don't already have a project created, then you just create a new one. From there, the first thing you'll need to do is make sure that you have the YouTube Data API enabled. Go to API and Services, Enable APIs, and click Enable APIs here, and search for YouTube. The one you want to select here is the YouTube Data API version 3. As you can see, I already have this API enabled, but if you don't, you'll see an Enable button. All you need to do is click that to enable the API. Next, we need to get our API credentials. Under API and Services, go to Credentials. From here, you'll want to create a new credentials and make sure you select API key. This will generate an API key for you. Once your API key is generated, you can just copy it, go back to BuildShip, and then add it as a new API key. And you're good to go. But just so I don't forget, let me delete this API key that I created. It goes without saying that it's never a good idea to expose your API keys. Now let's head back to BuildShip. Our YouTube node is now good to go, and we can actually test this node before moving on. Let's enter a search query. We'll say BuildShip. We need to add a publish after date here. So what we'll do is we'll just copy the output of the get previous date node, and we'll use it here. And let's test the node. and we get back our YouTube search results. This means that our YouTube node is working fine. So we can continue on. Next up, we have a branch node, has mentions. As the name implies, we want to check if we have any mentions at all for the brand we specify. The condition here is just checking the output length of the YouTube mentions node. So if the count is greater than 0, then we'll continue on with the regular execution of the workflow. Otherwise, we want to early return out of our workflow. For that, we just use the output node. But if we do have mentions, then we want to continue on with our workflow. And next, what we want to do is have GPT summarize the mentions for us and put it in a nice Markdown format. But first, we need to select our OpenAI API key. If you don't already have your OpenAI API key added in BuildShip, then you can grab that from platform.openai.com. Now let's take a look at the instructions we're giving GPT. We're telling it that it's going to receive mentions about a particular brand from YouTube, and then we tell it what the brand is here. This is referencing the brand input. And let's expand this a bit. So we're telling it that we want it to generate a nice Markdown representation of this data. And then here we're just providing a sample Markdown. For the prompt, we're passing the mentions that we get back from YouTube. We'll want to email this summary. But in order for us to do that, we need to convert it to HTML. Hence the next step, Markdown to HTML. The only input here is the Markdown we want to convert to HTML, and this will be the output of our text generator node. Once our Markdown has been converted to HTML, we're now ready for the final step in our workflow. That is to email our summary report. For this, we're going to be using Gmail, and BuildShip has a Gmail send email node that we can use. But first, you'll need to authenticate with your Gmail account. As you can see, I already did that. But if you haven't, then you can just click Add Account and sign in. Once you do that, we need to specify the receiver email address. I'll just enter my email address. You can optionally change the sender email if you want. Now let's take a look at the email subject. So the email subject here is prefixed with the brand input, followed by the text new YouTube mentions. And for the important part here, the email message body, we're using the output of the Markdown to HTML node. And that's all there is to our workflow. And now we're ready to put this workflow to the test. Let's find out what people are saying about Cursor AI. And if you don't know, Cursor AI is a AI-powered code editor. Let's test the workflow. And our workflow has finished executing without any errors. And now if I head over to my Gmail and refresh, I'll see a new email here in my inbox, Cursor AI, new YouTube mentions. And this is my Cursor AI summary report. We get the title, which is a link to the video, when the video is published, the channel, a description, and a context. But I'll feel more confident if we test it a second time. And this time, we'll search for any mentions of Claude. We'll test the flow. And the test is finished running. So I'll head back to Gmail, I'll go back to my inbox, and I'll do a refresh. And here we have our Claude YouTube mentions. But that was YouTube. So what about Hacker News? As we showed in the beginning of the video, we have a second workflow, Hacker News. The setup here is similar to the YouTube workflow, so we'll just breeze through most of the steps. The major difference here is that we're using the Hacker News mention node. The beautiful thing about this node is that it doesn't require any API key. And if we continue to scroll down in our workflow, we'll want to make sure that we have our OpenAI API key selected for the GPT text generator node. And then for the send email node, just as we did in the YouTube version, we want to make sure we authenticate with our Gmail account. And then here, all we need to do is enter the receiver email address. So I'll enter my email address. and there's no more setup required. Now let's put our Hacker News mention tracker workflow to the test. And this time, we want to search for any mentions of the brand NVIDIA. And we can test the workflow. And now our workflow has finished executing successfully without any errors. This means now that if I head over back to my Gmail inbox and I refresh, I will see a new NVIDIA Hacker News mentions report. And if I open it up here, we'll get our AI summary report. We get the post title, and you can see that it includes the mention of NVIDIA. We get the post points, the author, the date it was published, the mention text, and context. Again, pretty much identical to our YouTube mention report. The title is a link, and if we click it, it'll just take us to the post. And that's how easy it is to get the Hacker News mention report up and running. Now, when you go to sleep and wake up in the morning, you'll have your mentions report waiting for you in your inbox, and you'll know exactly what people are saying about your brand or competitors. But the building doesn't have to end here for you. In fact, we'd like to see what amazing ideas you bring to life using these workflows. So feel free to share them in the comments. And if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, then now would be a good time to do so. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, happy build shipping.